I've taught units at onshore, which I call University of Tasmania. I taught one unit this year, and I've taught offshore, starting about 2 years ago. And so I'm looking at the comparison between the traditional didactic teaching and what's happening with student-centred learning, and that is intensive mode teaching, interactive intensive mode teaching. Well, I use the model developed as a result of the Office of Learning and Teaching program at the University of Western Australia. Let me talk about offshore because that's the significant one. I'm teaching in China and teaching large classes. I had two cohorts of about 100 students in each cohort. Now, previously I had 6 weeks, but this year we changed it to 4 weeks, 4 weeks face-to-face. That was preceded by videos, which I produced, video lectures, and there were another 2 video lectures post-visit. Well, the final assessment, it happened 2 weeks after my visit. Now, this is interesting because I'm using a Moodle-based student learning system called Cloud Campus. Now, I've used that extensively and intensively, and that has proven to be a really valuable part of intensive mode. What did I dislike? I disliked making videos intensely because to make a half-hour video lecture, to make it interesting to students, to make it to provide content, but more to engage the students, takes a lot of work. I'd estimate about 12 hours to make one of my video lectures. It enabled me to, when I got into class, to focus on threshold concepts. So I picked the eyes out of the content. And I provided not only the video lectures, but also a set of notes which I'd written specifically for international students. So there was some translation there. But what I could do is scroll down through those notes and stop. And I'd actually highlight a couple of things, like, for example, when I was teaching engineering ethics, I highlighted the word bias. And then we talked about bias and what that meant, and words like integrity. So we could spend 20 minutes on that particular aspect of engineering ethics, and that I found very, very valuable. What happens in Chinese lectures is that the teacher will stand in front of the class on the dais and will speak at them for the whole of the session, and no interaction or engagement is encouraged. So what I have done, with the benefit of the assistance of my colleague, Dr. Sita Jagran-Do, who works with me in China, we've got some techniques which we use. And the best one, of course, is when I start my work there, there's a laboratory or design component. So I get the students to sort themselves out into groups and pick a name for the group. And I use the process of picking the name for the group as an illustration of how teams should work. So, okay, so I go into the class and I want an answer to a particular question. I want some feedback. So I would say, Phoenix, Team Phoenix, where are you? Where are you? And one of the students will put up their hand a bit sheepishly. I'll say, look, I'll give you 2 minutes to think about this. I want you to define bias. I want you to give me an example of bias. And so they'll talk about it. And then the leader of the group, or the one most competent to speak out, will get up and either talk, or in many cases I hand them the chalk and they write it up on the board. Now this works. And so that's one of the techniques. Oh yes. Students, of course, have to be encouraged to get online and read the material prior to the face-to-face.